You're texting a friend. Everything feels happy and good until they reply with the dreaded K. And suddenly your chest tightens. Your face gets hot. Your brain starts replaying the thread like you missed something obvious. And here's the wild part. Nothing bad has actually happened yet. But your body is already in pain. That pain isn't rejection. It's uncertainty. For ADHD brains, not knowing where you stand can hurt more than a clear no. There's even a name for this pattern, Rejection Sensitive Dysphoria. And despite the name, it's not really about rejection. It's about your nervous system treating maybe like danger. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you why ambiguity hijacks ADHD attention and 3 switches that you can use today to shut the spiral down faster than you can think. And who am I to tell you that the worst part of rejection usually happens before anything really happens? My name is Dr. Salman Aziz Mirza, triple board certified in adult psychiatry, child and adolescent psychiatry, and addiction medicine. And I'm going to show you the exact mistake that people make that keeps this alarm blaring, like me hitting snooze for the 5th time this morning. The thing that most people miss is this. RSD reacts to uncertainty, not rejection. Your threat system doesn't wait for a clear no. It fires at maybe, not sure, or let's talk later. Anything that leaves your status unclear. In ADHD, that ambiguity hijacks attention, spins worst case stories in working memory, and weakens the emotional braking under stress. That's why a K text or let's talk later feels urgent, even when there's no actual rejection. Here's a quick real-world snapshot. You present a draft in a team meeting. Your manager says, "Can you tighten this section?" Neutral tone, no anger, no threat. But within seconds, your chest tightens, heat rises in your face, and your mind jumps to, "They regret hiring me." You almost launch into a defensive explanation. Let's pause right there. The move is to name the ambiguity. I don't actually know what this means yet. When you do that, the urge to defend drops. Later, the feedback turns out to be 2 quick bullet points, shorten the intro by 2 seconds, or move the chart to the next slide. That's RSD in action. The body reacts before rejection exists. And here's the counterintuitive part. The pain often peaks in the maybe. With no clear target to resolve, your nervous system keeps scanning, and uncertainty can feel worse than a firm no. This is where people accidentally make it worse. They argue with the story in their head. They analyze every possible meaning. They reach for reassurance. But debating the content keeps attention glued to ambiguity, and your alarm system reads that as still dangerous. Fight and flight are fast, protective attempts to reduce uncertainty. Some people go hot. They become defensive, anger, sharp tone. Others go cold. They shut down, they shame, they people please. Neither of them ultimately is a character flaw. But when the trigger is vague, both backfire. The uncertainty never resolves, so the system stays aroused. That's why neutral or delayed cues land so hard in ADHD. Not because they're fragile, but because uncertainty captures attention, weakens emotional braking, and fuses feedback with identity. Once you see that, the solution changes. You don't need thicker skin. You need better switches. Now that you understand the mechanism, let's get clear about the label. Rejection sensitivity dysphoria isn't a diagnosis. It's shorthand clinicians use to describe a specific pain pattern that shows up frequently in ADHD. And the pattern matters more than the name. RSD doesn't mean you're fragile. It doesn't mean you can't take feedback. And it doesn't mean something is wrong with your personality. It means that your nervous system reacts fast and intensely to social uncertainty, and then settles once clarity returns. That's an important distinction. People often confuse RSD with being too sensitive, but sensitivity is broad and slow. RSD is sharp, fast, and situational. It spikes around specific cues, criticism, silence, delays, and then drops when context resolves or regulation kicks in. Another common confusion is with personality disorders, especially borderline personality disorder. So here's a clean separation. With RSD, reactions are cue-triggered. Identity is generally stable between the episodes, and intensity drops as uncertainty clears. With BPD, borderline personality disorder, identity disturbance is persistent. Relational instability spans multiple contexts. And reactions aren't limited to specific ambiguous cues. Different patterns, different solutions. No stigma, just accuracy. This clarity matters because mislabeling creates the wrong response. So if you think the problem is your personality, you try to toughen up. If you think the problem is a weakness, you try to suppress emotion. And if you think the problem is character, you try harder. But in reality, none of these work. Because the problem isn't who you are, it's how your nervous system handles uncertainty. And once you see it that way, the next step becomes obvious. You don't argue with the alarm. You don't wait for reassurance. You install better switches, which is exactly what we'll do next. You don't calm RSD by arguing with your thoughts or waiting for reassurance. You calm it by changing what your nervous system is reacting to. Here are 3 switches that work because they target uncertainty, identity fusion, and time on alert, in that order. Switch number 1, name the ambiguity. The most common mistake that people make is arguing with the story in their head instead of dealing with the uncertainty itself. Here's why that matters. The moment you name uncertainty, your brain calms down. You're basically telling it, I don't have an answer yet, but I'm not in danger. That slows the alarm instead of feeding it. So here's the move. When you see the vague cue, the unanswered text, the let's talk later, or the dreaded K message, say this out loud. I don't actually know what this means yet. That one sentence does 3 things. It interrupts the threat response. It stops your attention from running to worst case scenarios. And it buys you time without pretending that you're fine. What most people do instead is analyze. Maybe they're mad. What if I said it's wrong? That just keeps attention glued to the uncertainty and the alarm stays on. So remember this one line. RSD reacts to uncertainty, not rejection. Name the uncertainty first. Switch 2. Split the data from your identity. Once the alarm is on, feedback stops feeling like information and starts feeling like a verdict on you. A small note about your work suddenly sounds like you're not good enough. This switch stops that from happening. You split data from identity. You can do this on paper or just in your head. On one side is data, what was actually said. No tone reading, no mind reading. On the other side is identity, your worth, your competence, and your belonging. Those are not on trial. And here's what that looks like in actual practice. When you're doing things like performance feedbacks, data is tighten the intro, move the chart. And then your identity is, I'm still capable and employed, right? And if we look at things like online criticism, data is one person disagreed with my take. And the identity is, I'm allowed to learn without self-erasing. Why this works is simple. Your nervous system calms faster when feedback isn't processed as a threat to belonging. What people usually do instead is chase reassurance, trying to get someone else to confirm that they're okay, without splitting first. That keeps identity fused to the cue. So remember this line, feedback feels lethal when behavior collapses into identity. And switch 3, time box the crash. Your nervous system needs to know one simple thing. This won't last forever. So instead of white knuckling it or letting your mind spiral, you give your body an exit. You set a 20-minute timer and you say, for the next 20 minutes, I'm allowed to feel this fully. During that time, you're not fixing anything. You're not drafting text. You're not replaying the conversation. And you're definitely not doom scrolling for answers. You're just helping your body to come down. That might mean something like slowing your breathing, going for a short walk, writing out what you're feeling, or using something physical, like cold water or grounding, to bring the intensity down. The exact method doesn't matter. What matters is that you're regulating, not suppressing. When the timer ends, then you decide what to do next. Maybe you clarify the ambiguity, maybe you run the data versus identity split, or maybe you deliberately table it and come back later. Here's why this works. When your brain knows that there's an endpoint, it stops treating the feeling like an emergency that will last forever. A clear window lowers arousal faster than willpower ever will. The two ways that people get stuck are pretending that they're fine, which keeps the alarm running in the background, or letting the window stretch on indefinitely, which turns into a spike into a spiral. So remember this line: this will end, and your body needs to hear that. Before we wrap this up, there's always one question my patients ask me about RSD. Is there a medicine for that? Medication doesn't erase sensitivity. It lowers the noise, so the switches you just learned can actually work. That distinction matters. Stimulants like Adderall or Ritalin don't change emotions directly. They strengthen executive function, so attention shifting, impulse breaking, working memory. What that means is fewer runaway loops and more space between the cue and your response. Many people will notice fewer emotional blow-ups, not because they care less, but because the brakes engage sooner. Alpha-2 agonists like clonidine or guanfacine work a bit differently. Think of them as lowering the baseline threat value. They can reduce hyperarousal and the intensity spikes, especially if your nervous system lives at a constant 7 out of 10. When the floor is lowered, vague cues don't launch you into the red zone, and your tools land more cleanly. SSRIs or antidepressants like Prozac or Lexapro sit in another lane. For some people, they reduce baseline anxiety or emotional reactivity, which can make ambiguity less combustible. For others, they don't touch this pattern much at all. That's why personalization matters. Ultimately, we have to remember one thing: no medication is a cure. You may still spike, and side effects are real, so make sure to talk this all out with your doctor. The takeaway is mechanism, not specific medication advice. Lower the noise, improve the braking, then use the switches. Skills plus meds often work better than either alone. If you remember one thing, remember this: uncertainty drives the pain. Better switches, not thicker skin, calm it faster. So here's your 24-hour takeaway. Save the line: I don't actually know what this means yet. Split the data from identity the next time you get vague feedback. And set a 20-minute timer after your next "let's talk later." Then notice what changes. Ultimately, if this video helps you calm the moment, the next step is fixing the system that keeps creating those moments. In my video, the link down below, 3 steps to fix ADHD once and for all, I walk you through the core framework I use with patients to stabilize attention, regulation, and follow through long term. Watch that next, because these switches work best when they're part of a bigger plan. Until next time, be safe and be well.